What's good, y'all? It's Mikey T, the movie star, back for a breaking exclusive today or last night, whenever it was. The whole court paperwork was dropped from Taz's testimony. They dropped the whole testimony from Taz's talks with all of the lawyers, prosecutor, the lawyers. And first of all, I just want to say that I've been taught in this game, in this industry, that you really got to be unbiased. You really got to play both sides of the fence. You can't be scared to talk to one group and then not talk to another. Hence, G Unit and Murder Inc., Bang'em Smurf and G Unit, anybody, dealing with Scott Storch and then dealing with Timbaland. You can't be aside. You can't be scared to touch both ends of the spectrum. But another thing I've been taught is that you can't let your emotions play into everything. You can't be showing everybody the emotional side of you. And my relationship with ARAB and Dark Low is one that I held very close to my heart, Like I said, I was helping Ab work on his album. I was trying to help Ab work on his album and produce him a lead single that would really break him onto the market. He had no smoke, but I went in and I was working with my partner and an artist that I'm working with out of St. Louis, Majestic, and we recorded several hooks for ARAB, which were dope. But today, what I'm focusing on is the full testimony that actually dropped. It was crazy. It was crazy because in this testimony, you basically it's made evident that the state or the feds have decided to bring on this guy, Dontez Stewart, who has been involved in many bodies in the past. He's bragged about it in jail and out of jail. Dontez Stewart, Dontez Stewart. Tez, but they called him Taz. 32 years old. They asked him, what does OBH stand for? Original Block Hustlers. Relabeled, though. It was redubbed the Original Brotherhood when Ab had started cleaning it up. Ab had once told me that he took his full surface chain that Cassidy gave him, and he sold it and bought, I think he said he bought 9 ounces and cooked it up. So Tez, after joining the group, and in this whole testimony, it's made clear he was only in the group for like a few years. He decided to get an OBH tattoo. I don't get that. I really don't get that. Like, this guy was really just trying to prove himself, and it seems once he got caught up in the system, he was like, if I can't shine, they can't shine. Again, this is your witness. A witness whose pure motive is jealousy. So the questions that he was asked, I want to talk to you again. What is OBH? OBH is a neighborhood organization, he replied. Then they asked him, when you say organization, what do you mean by that? It's a rap group. Do they do anything else besides rap? He was asked. Plenty of things. Like what? Sell drugs, a lot of criminal activities. They asked him, I want to talk to you a little bit about your involvement there. And I want to first talk to you about how we got here. In November 2017, you were arrested in connection with the murder of Robert Johnson. This was November 2017. This is a really big issue right here. Robert Johnson, they called him Robbie, I believe. He was killed in November. He was killed in October of 2017. And it turns out that it was Taz who actually carried out his murder with the help later of a guy by the name of Birdo. Nobody knows who Birdo is. I wonder if Birdo is even a real person. Is Birdo currently in custody? Is Birdo a real person? Did Taz make up Birdo so he could, portray this whole story that comes out a little bit later? So we look at it, and we're going to get into this a little bit. They asked him, "This wasn't your first contact with the criminal justice system." He replied, "No." Taz replied, "No." Question: in 2014, you were convicted of aggravated assault and firearms offenses. Is that correct? Taz responded, "Yes." Do you remember what you got on that case? He got 11 and a half to 23 with 20 years of probation. It's a lot of probation right there. 20 years of probation. This guy basically was going to be monitored by the police for the rest of his life. I have no idea why this guy would be with OBH. Somebody who was rocking with OBH at a certain point, Dark Low, one of the most talented musicians that I've ever met, ARAB, one of the most successful on the internet. I don't understand why these guys would even rock with somebody doing 20 years of probation. Through all the cases I've ever gotten in my whole life, I've never even been on probation. So, in February 2006, you were convicted of other firearms offenses in PA. So, in 2004, he got this 11 and a half to 23 or whatever, and then he's already out. And in February 2006, catches another firearms case. Okay. What did you get for that? He revoked his 20-year probation, and he got a new 3 to 6 term to serve. 2011, he was convicted of a narcotics-related offense. He agreed, yes. Do you remember what you got in that? He does not remember. Probably a petty amount of time in comparison to what he had been sentenced before previously. He probably only got like 3, 4, 6 months for the duration of the trial, and then they sprung him free. He didn't remember. He answered that he didn't remember in the time. So after you were arrested in connection with the murder of Robert Johnson, you were indicted by a federal grand jury for your role in a conspiracy with other members of OBH. Is that correct? So let's look at that right there. That's a pretty big statement right there. Taz was already arrested in the connection of Robbie Johnson. So the murder happened in October. He was arrested in November. And while he sat in jail, he started talking. And then they put together the pieces of their indictment and went on to charge several other members of the OBH clique. If I'm reading this correctly and I'm putting 2 and 2 together correctly, it says, after you were arrested in connection with the murder of Robbie Johnson, you were indicted by a federal grand jury for your role in conspiracy with the other members of OBH. Is that correct? Correct, he replied. That included Abdul West, who we know as ARAB. Correct. And then he went on to go on in further detail all the other guys, Jamal Hickson, Jamal Blanding, Hans Gadsden, Daryl Baker, and so forth. And he admitted all members that they were all in the group. So basically what he did while he was sitting in there for this murder charge that he says Berto did, he ratted on OBH and basically cemented their case. I think a lot of people on the internet would have thought somebody else would have done that. But no, it was somebody right in the middle of things. Not somebody who had been earlier departed, if you will. So we're going to get down, and I think the next question we got to answer is actually, how did this guy get into the group? A lot of people want to know, how did Taz even get in the group? Like I just asked a few, like in the earlier clip. How did Taz actually get in the group? Well, let's go over this real quick. So, Taz was actually going on trial, and the prosecutor asked him, "Did the trial ever complete or finish?" "No." "You pled guilty?" "Yes." "Do you want to tell the members of the jury what you pled guilty to?" "I pled guilty to third-degree murder, but accept also to cooperate." "That was an open plea?" "Yes." "Has the state judge promised you what you're going to get in the state sentence for Robert Johnson's murder?" "No." "After you pled guilty in September of 2017, did you and your attorney meet with members from my office as well as Special Agent Becker concerning your possible cooperation in this particular case?" "Yes." "And on October 17th, 2019, did you sign a cooperation plea agreement with federal government and plead guilty to that conspiracy to deal narcotics with other members of the original block hustlers. Right there, that answers to you about how he was actually a member of the group and how he was involved with the indictment himself. They had to make Taz a part of this indictment to make it stick. Even though they were offering him immunity within the indictment, they had to involve him in it. But it's just crazy to me. You see, he pled out to third-degree murder. And you know, in the statute of murder, I mean, that's obviously not as bad as capital murder and premeditated murder, but I probably shouldn't even be saying that word. I'm going to have to bleep it out. So if you guys hear all the bleeps, just know that I bleeped out that word because I don't need YouTube demonetizing me or putting out the truth to the public. So basically, what I'm saying here is that they got this guy Taz on the stand. They've got an admitted criminal, an admitted guy like this on the stand, and they're going to take his word to put away somebody who has just been doing some dealing in the hood. But more importantly, somebody who had got major cosigns from Drake and Birdman and every other rapper you could name that comes through Philly. You know, every other rapper that you name that comes through Philly shows ARAB love and shit. You know, so it's ridiculous that a guy like Taz is going to use his jealousy just because, like he said later in this whole thing, he didn't rap. He was just on call. He was a guy that was on call, one of those 100 people that Ab was talking about. We got 100 people in the back. Although I guess it seems like Ab was really trying to call them artists when they were really doing other things. I mean, honestly, Taz was probably just one of the homies. So just because he didn't have a particular talent, or he used his talent, which was apparently flipping in the streets, smoking 30 blunts a day. This guy was ridiculous. I don't even know why he was OBH. So ridiculous. Doesn't even make me wonder why OBH couldn't take it to the next level when you have a bonehead like this in the clique. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want a guy like this around people like Birdman and in $1 Million studios. He's a bonehead. I want to draw your attention, come to the question, I want to draw your attention to around 2015 and into 2016. When did you get out of jail in 2015, if you remember? He didn't remember. Did there come a time when you sought out Abdul West for any particular reason? He replied, Taz replied, around 2015? Question, 2015 to 2016? His name was ringing in the city, you know, just his music was, you know, doing good. And, you know, he was the man to be around. Yeah, Ab was the man to be around. They said, the man to be around? Yeah, he replied. At that time when you got out of jail, were you selling narcotics? Not in the beginning, when I first got out. Not in the beginning, he replied. What happened? I was going to school in Allstate. I don't give a damn if you were going to school, man. Not to put you down or anything, man, but you said it right there. ARAB was doing things. He was ringing bells. He was creating attention. He was creating a way out, you know, for other people. You know, not scum like you who misguided his intentions. This is something I really can't believe that has happened with the ARAB situation. You got a piece of scum like this who knew Ab had such potential, and then he got in and he manipulated his brain. Plays out like any type of movie you would see where somebody gets out of jail and then they join a clique. Clique has actually got some money. He gets some money and then he uses it in the wrong places. So at some point, did you start selling narcotics for not OBH, but for a guy you know as Baby? So they even know that Taz is selling narcotics before he was working for Ab, apparently. He answered yes. When was that? He said into 2015, the beginning of 2016. Okay, what kind of narcotics were you selling for Baby? He replied, crack. Were you selling it? Everywhere in the city. North Philly, Frankfurt, a little bit of South Philly? Question. Did there come a time when you stopped selling for Baby and started selling for Abdul West? They asked him, did there come a time when you stopped selling for Baby and started selling for Abdul West? He answered, yes. Let's talk about that. When does that start? He replied, mid-2016, beginning of 2007. What is mid-2016 to the beginning of 2017? That doesn't even make sense. Middle of the 2016 is July, June. The beginning of 2017 is February, late January, like after the Super Bowl. What are you talking about, man? How are the prosecutors and the judge even letting this fly? So they asked, how do you approach Mr. West, or why do you approach Mr. West? I approached Mr. West, he replied, because he had the product. When you say the product, what are you referring to? Taz replied, he had the coke. How did you know that? Through sources, Taz replied. How did you first approach Mr. West in hopes of becoming a seller for him? Look at that right there. How did you first approach Mr. West in hopes of becoming a seller for him? This guy approached ARAB like this, like it was a job opportunity. Like, come on, like it reads right there. It's like, give me some of your music money and let me put myself on. But his terms were probably, let me get some money and let me go put it into my house and make sure that I have a girl that's going to be there at the end of the night. Anything like that. This guy's cooking up a story, and you can obviously tell it. And it's just messed up because it's in the prosecutor's words right here. And he had hopes of becoming a seller. Taz replied, I had through a third party. And they replied, who is that? Taz replied, Dark Low. They were asked, do you know what his real name is? Taz replied, Charles Sally. Tell us what happened, they asked. The court. Charles, what's his last name? The witness, Taz, Sally. Sally, Your Honor, Charles Sally. Salley. So the prosecutor asked, tell us your first interaction with Mr. West in that time period. You're talking about 2016. Where did you have to go? How did you meet up with him? He met him at the mansion. They asked, what's the mansion? A house around, Sideham? How did you know to go there? That's where I was pointed out by Dark Low. That's where everybody was chilling. That's where everybody was chilling, you say. Yeah. Describe the mansion to me. What does it look like? It's just a regular house. Do you remember the first day you went to the mansion? Yeah. Tell me about it. Who was there? Everybody was there. How many people? Probably like 10 to 20 people. You said that OBH, it's a rap group also involved in criminal activity. Does any rapping happen at the mansion? They're just digging here. Does any rapping happen at the mansion? Jesus. All types of rapping happens, I'm sure, at the mansion. I mean, I'm sure there's a half a dozen guys in there at least trying to rap and get ARAB's attention. Like, come on. Yeah, Taz replied. What is the mansion used for? Yeah, he just replied, it's used for stashing drugs and chilling. First time you went to the mansion, you said there were a lot of people there. Yeah. What were they doing? Smoking, playing games, and doing transactions. What do you mean by transactions? Drug transactions, money transactions. Have you ever seen any weapons at the mansion? Yeah. Tell me about it. Fishing. Everybody had weapons on them. Everybody had weapons on them? Everybody. Can you explain that to the jury? How many people would be at the mansion at various times? It would be like numerous, like a lot of people, like 10, 15, and everybody in there playing a game, smoking, passing work off, coke and weed. When you first got to the mansion, were you provided with narcotics right away? No. Why not? What had to happen? He had to manipulate ARAB. What are you talking about? What had to happen? He had to manipulate one of the hottest rising stars from Philly since Beanie Siegel, Gilly the Kid, Meek Mill. You had ARAB coming. Like, what do you mean what had to happen? He had to manipulate this dude from the hood and telling him more money would come when enough wasn't coming in. What had to happen? I had to work my way into the trust circle, Taz says. Yeah, guy who doesn't even... Nobody knows you, Taz. You got brought in, though, by the right guy. I'll say that much. You got brought in by the right guy, and you broke his trust. And you saw what ended up happening to Dark Low because of the fact that you broke his trust. He wasn't going to let that slide on you, Taz. And you know what, bro? The rest of the world ain't going to let this slide on you either. Because now you've just ruined your career. You've ruined your name. I hope you're happy with whatever life you get to have outside of this. You know what I mean? I hope you're happy with it because you just turned your back on some of the greatest people that ever could have tried to help you after you got out of jail for your second attempt. Like you got an aggravated assault charge, and then you got a shooting charge, attempted murder charge. You get out of jail, you get put down with a click, sort of like a guy like Maserati Fox getting put down with G Unit right after he got out of jail, and you blew that opportunity for yourself. Arab was on the cusp of greatness. Dark Low was on the cusp of greatness, and you screwed that up for everybody. And I hope that that things like this just don't keep on happening, because the world needs to change. We don't need things like this happening anymore. You don't need nearly convicted murderers taking the stand and pointing the finger at people, because that is the least credible of a witness that I've ever heard. I just wanted to do this, though, to give everybody a little bit of insight as to what's going on and what's been going through my mind. You know, because you got people locked up right now, like a group of people locked up, and that just means that their families aren't getting taken care of right now. And it's all because this one guy couldn't man up to making a mistake and selling to a CI, a confidential informant. He sold to a confidential informant, and that comes with a few years in jail, but also he was everything else going on. So, all right, everybody. Mikey T, the movie star, Report Card Radio.